Boom, boom, boom. This is episode 187 of the Herpeticulture Podcast. I'm Justin Smith of Palmeticus Exotics. As
I'm
always,
Jake Bratz with Longleaf Reptilia.
there he is. This episode is brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out. Facebook, Instagram. Go on the website. Use code THN at checkout. Get a little bit saved off your order. Racks are really nice. Cages are really nice. You won't be disappointed no matter what you get.
No, you will not.
And then you need to roll on over to stevesnakeshoery.com and get yourself the whole set of Venom hot sauce. It is delicious. The cottonmouth sauce, once again, our favorite. I was telling Katie the other day, I was like, we were making tacos or something. I was like, I wish I had a bottle of that. Like, I need to bite the bullet and just grab some.
Yep.
I'm not even a big hot sauce guy, but that stuff is.
I am. I'm gonna have to try some of that.
Dude,
Yeah.
It's great, man. We did a video years ago, like almost not when we first started, but many moons ago when Steve became our
3 years.
sponsor. Yeah. And we tried every hot sauce he's got. And
Dang.
it's good stuff. I'm not a big hot sauce guy either, but his stuff was really good.
Yeah, but we use the horrible Pizza Hut boneless wings.
Yeah. That wasn't my idea, but
It wasn't. I don't remember what possessed us to go with those, but I feel like we could have done better.
there is no us in that. You were just like, we're gonna try it with these wings.
You know, no, you know what it was
Okay.
is I was working, and the closest thing I could find that would have those that I wouldn't have to wait for a hot minute was Pizza Hut because it was right next to work. So I was like, I'll just grab some of those, we'll get it done. Like, we have something. I figured that would be the best for like an honest, interpretation. But looking back, I think Chick-fil-A nuggets would have been a much better. I don't know. Those also might throw off the palate a little bit because they got like the pickle sort of flavor to them, and I don't know. Steve needs to text me and tell me what the best thing to get an honest flavor of hot sauce is. I'm assuming it's something that has no flavor, like a saltine or something, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Or he'd probably just say stick a straw in the bottle and drink it, but nothing wrong with that
Something
either.
I got a crisp dollar bill if somebody sends me a video of them drinking a whole bottle of Steve Snake's hot sauce.
$1?
Yeah, just crisp.
Oh,
Got a crisp dollar bill. Okay.
One single dollar hair.
Yep, that's it.
I don't think that's really incentive enough. If you made it like a 20, maybe we could talk. But
Okay, I'll make it 20 if you do it. Just for you, Smitty. I'll give you $20 if you chug a whole bottle.
I don't know if I could.
No, I don't think you can either.
That might. Maybe we might have to figure something out. I might try it. I don't know. But here we are. So one of our most popular episodes of all time in the 5 years we've been doing this now is Connor's first episode he did with us, which I love because you always think it's going to be like, you know, bigger names or like the episodes you always think are going to be kind of the ones that are really going to take off.
Blow up. Yeah.
Like, it's never those. So Connor's is like in the top 5, I think.
Well, heck yeah.
Wow.
If not more than that, or higher than that. But we're long overdue to have another Texas episode. And I know you were just on
Showdown.
Yep, another. You were on Coluber and Coluber Radio a couple 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
Talking about Coach Whips, and I think we're going to get into those a pretty good bit tonight. But I'm super curious about your Hypsiglena because I think I might be your biggest fan on the night snake front.
Dude, those are so
Nice.
Those are like so freaking cool. Like, I
Very
loved
cool.
finding those in Texas.
Yeah.
When we were there. You know, you've got rubber boas, which I want to probably touch on a little bit, and some other just really cool stuff. So, but we're joined by, as I said, Connor Wardle, and then William Huntsman. Are you're in the same area as Connor? Mm-hmm.
No, I live in Eastern Kentucky, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were a transplant from Kentucky to Texas, but
No.
Just a fellow Masticophis enthusiast there, Facebook does miracles.
We both love the whip.
That's right.
The whip snake, that is.
Whipped by the whip, you could say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do a lot for them.
That's what they used to believe back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I still hear that. I've had some people tell me, like, have you ever seen the snake that rolls up in a hoop and, chases you? And it's like,
Rolls
really? Like, what year is it?
Yeah.
What year is it?
Like, good Lord.
I've had some people say they spit venom. They're like a cobra. And I'm like, oh, okay.
They sting you with their tail, those copperheads,
Yeah.
I've heard that one too, and I'm like, no. Like, good Lord.
Yeah. No, I heard one the other day. The baby, like, if they have a green tail, that's a stinger.
Huh.
Dang, I gotta watch out, man.
Oh, yeah, man. those baby cottonmouths and copperheads.
I mean, you do have to admit
you.
that bright color does make you kind of want to touch it. Not that I'm gonna.
The rule of the wild is bright colors mean danger.
It's just like when the chondros start doing their luring and stuff. I'm like, I really do just want to grab that little worm, but I know exactly what you're gonna do when I do that.
There's a price to pay for that grab.
There is, dude. I saw a picture. Someone on Facebook posted a video of like a really gnarly chondro bite they got. I don't remember who it was.
Dude, I think I saw that.
That their hand was like all swollen up. They got absolutely lit up by that chondro.
Dang.
I've been bit by like my smaller ones, like 2-year-old yearlings, whatever, and that wasn't any fun. So I can't imagine like a really diesel Biak.
Yeah, that would
pass.
Nah, I'll pass on that.
But that's neither here nor there. So we've had Connor on previously, like I said. Connor, if you want to do sort of the Cliff Notes version introduction again, if you want. If not, no big deal. And then William, your background in reptiles. Once again, it can be the long version, it can be the short version. We leave it up to you. So
cool. All right, yeah, I'll go ahead and do a little express, whatever track or whatnot, Cliff Note there. So my name's Connor. I started off with reptiles through the Reptile Study Merit Badge and growing up in Boy Scouts. Started off with the Chinese water dragon, your perfect first entry-level reptile there. Terrible decision. But the PetSmart people, they know everything. So, yeah. Started off with that. Didn't go super great. Got into leopard geckos very briefly. And then from there, I got a job working for a Boy Scout center where we had the probably one of the larger Lampreyeltis and Pantherophis collections in the country. We had every native U.S. species of Lampreyeltis and Pantherophis,
That's cool.
Focusing on locality animals. Of course, there were some oddballs, the Pituophis, Thamnophis, some Masticophis stuff that was really awesome. And then I caught my first coach whip in 2017. It ate well for me, so I just decided to continue keeping them and see what I could do with them. Kind of helping change people's opinions of them in captivity. And then I kind of have settled into my niche of kind of southwestern U.S. herps. Like I said, working with your Masticophis, your Hypsiglena, your night snakes, things like that. I've got glossy snakes now, as well as some other odds and ends, which we can talk about later. So, yeah, that's me.
William?
I started with, of all things, the common corn snake.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the common corn
Hell
snake.
yeah, brother.
But then my interest changed, and I had heard about the coach whip. I think I was reading about him in a guide, and I was like, wow, that is a really cool snake. So I did more research, and I ended up seeing one in the wild. And then I was hooked. I was like, man, I want everything to do with this species and this genus. So I just focused, not exclusively, but mostly on them. And desert Southwest stuff. I've always really loved that. And I used to do talks at one of the local nature centers in Pueblo, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do nature talks there, educate the public about the native reptiles. And so that's kind of my background with reptiles. I've been keeping them since early 2000s.
What's
I've been
your
keeping
collection looking like currently?
Currently, it's mostly I have a couple westerns. I have a Pisceus, which is a red coach whip. I keep a few members of the genus Samophis. They're an African sand racer. They're a mildly venomous.
Yeah, we were just talking about that genus on Snakes and Stogies on Monday.
Oh, that genus
It's
is
pretty interesting.
absolutely
It's really
amazing.
cool.
I have nothing. I have nothing but positive things to say about them. And even though they're mildly venomous, I've never seen any sign of aggression from one.
Mm-hmm.
So I've absolutely fallen in love with them. Every single one I've had has been great. So I've really focused a lot on them, and also Western milk snakes.
Nice.
So kind of gentilis in there. So yeah, that's basically
How
my
does
focus.
how does the Samnophis overall like compare to coach whips in terms of behavior and keeping? And
They're very similar. I think their metabolisms are a little bit slower. They're not quite as fast. I don't think they need to eat quite as much, but they have the same requirements for high UV. They need good UV in order to properly thrive and digest their vitamins and everything. Yeah, overall, they're just a great animal to work with. I've never had any issues with them.
I can see them filling very similar niches.
Yeah, they do. They're a desert species on either side, whether it's Africa or Utah, Arizona. They do live in very similar habitats, and they look similar in a lot of ways too. Really similar to our American whip snakes with the longitudinal lines and everything. But they have highly developed venom glands, so they are a little bit different. But
there was a point not that long ago where it seemed like a ton of them were getting imported. I forget which species exactly, but man, it was like those just super clean stripes and stuff.
I know a lot come in from Egypt. A lot come in from Egypt.
Our buddy Nipper Reed, I don't know if he's keeping them anymore, but he was keeping them, and he said they were really enjoyable, but they're stupid fast. And you need a lot of space.
They're like coach whips. They're always exploring. They're not just sitting there, curled up in a ball. I mean, sometimes they are, but usually they're out exploring. They're climbing on something. They're looking around. If you're doing something, they might be watching you. Like, they're just interactive animals. And that's one thing I noticed with also the Samophis is that they're similar to the American racers in that sense.
Have either of you kept any of the racer species, like buttermilks or anything like that?
Almost every single one except the tan racer. That's the only subspecies of American racers that I haven't kept. I've kept the buttermilks. Those are freaking awesome.
Every time I see a picture of a buttermilk, man, that is such a cool
dude. They are awesome. They really are, and they fare well in captivity.
Really that's kind of what I've gathered from what I've seen and read. We have the blacks here everywhere, and I don't know. I've never kept them. I know people have, but to me, like knowing how high strung they are, I just don't see them doing very well in captivity overall.
Yeah, they're very high strung.
I've kept the Southern Blacks. I had an Everglades racer for a little bit, and then I had a buttermilk racer that came in I had it for about a week, and then I bought it as a gift for somebody, one of my friends in Southern California that kind of helps me out with getting some of my more niche stuff. But yeah, I mean the black racers, they're great. You just got to have proper I don't want to say, the word like clutter, that everybody thinks that corn snakes need X and Y, but definitely more just kind of almost like shrubbery, that way there's
a lot of visual
physical barrier, like that, of course, that hides and things like that, but like a physical barrier that you can still kind of see through, like some dry grass or like I cut down a dead kind of like sapling tree, and just threw it in one of my whip snake cages. And Yeah, just like a physical barrier like that, where you can still see them, they can still come out and bask, but there's like something that's like, oh, I can't just reach my hand in there and just grab you in this blank space,
Mhm.
So how have the black racers done for you, Connor? Because I know I remember when you got one and I commented on it. I was like, hey, let me know how this does, because I've always been curious about keeping those. Like, I'm probably one of the only people that actually actively tries to catch black racers when I see them.
That is
I
my
do
favorite
too.
bird.
I love the species. I think they're awesome. A lot of people just see them on, but So I am curious how those have done for you. Do you still have them?
I don't. So the one that I had most recently, the way that I deal with wild caught animals now is different than I used to. I used to get them in, I'd wet and I'd start medicating them as they're settling in, But I've kind of changed that protocol to get them feeding, get them established, send a fecal in before we just start putting panicure and things like that, So it did end up passing, and I believe that's due to just a little bit too the medication practice there. But I mean, for the most part, I don't really medicate things anymore as long as their fecals are good, and they're going to have natural parasites in the wild anyway, and they're going to live a decent life, So it's I don't want to say that it's 100% okay for them to have some of that stuff, but the more mild things, I'm okay with letting them kind of hang out with that in their system and things like that. But as far as feeding goes, you just gotta. It's just like what I was talking about with coach whips a while back. But you get them taking some type of small lizard or something like that, then you transition them to the tong feeding. Then you can, once they get off feeding off tongs, and they associate the tongs in your hand with food, they're pretty easy with scented rodents, things like that. But obviously with the racers, you want to do kind of smaller prey items. They're not like a big small mouse that's full of a bunch of hair. Like I don't think that they do super great with digesting hair either. Not that they need hairless rodents like Nerodia might.
Definitely.
But kind of on the smaller end there. And then lizards as well. And reptilinks are out there. I haven't tried those personally, but those are also an option. And there are people that have produced black racers. There's a group of people working with your Masticophis and your Coluber, your North American whip snakes, coach whips, and then your racers as well over in Europe. They're having awesome success producing them year after year. It's just really, really neat to see over there.
I would wonder how well they would do on something like frog legs, because multiple times I have found them around ponds chasing frogs. Actually, my first snake of 23 was from a couple weeks ago, and it was a black racer. I was doing an inspection on a new construction site, and I heard because kind of like a, and I look over, and this black racer's got a frog in its mouth. It was a big animal, eating an average sized leopard frog, so I just kind of sat there and watched it for a minute. It completely paused as soon as it saw me, didn't move, but that's the second time I've found black racers around that. The first time I heard a bunch of frogs freaking out, and I was like, I'm gonna go see what that was, and I see a black racer just going nuts all through this little tiny pond area,
Awesome.
So I would almost wonder if they wouldn't go for something like bullfrog legs and stuff like that.
Yeah, but actually, as hatchlings, small invertebrate prey. Even I kept it was like a average size yellow belly racer for a bit. It would only eat grasshoppers, so I had to go catch myself.
Really,
which is kind of neat. And buttermilks are similar from what I've heard as well with the beetle. Yeah, but that's why I would assume a lot of these aren't more popular in the hobby, because they get the beautiful colorations and stuff like that, but not everything is going to do good on a 100% rodent diet, and people are going to be okay with that.
Yeah. So that was going to be my follow-up question. What is your source for lizards? Because I know you obviously have a lot of snakes that need, a lizard diet. How do you, both of you, how do you go about acquiring them?
So for me personally, I source anoles through Above Ground Exotics. You can find him on Facebook. Great guy, easy to work with. I think his anole prices are, don't quote me on this, but last time I ordered, they were $1.50 each. Super. I mean, as far as the anoles go, I mean, it's you buy them for that price, or you go to PetSmart and you buy them $7 each.
Right.
So that's a lot better there, easier on the budget there. And then for the larger snakes, like I've got a red Pisces, one of the red racers, my female there from La Paz area. She only eats lizards as of right now. So I have him collect curly tail lizards for me as well, and she eats adult curly tail lizards. So I'm working this year to try and get her on scented rodents there, but we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Do you get them live and then freeze them, or do you feed live, or do they get sent frozen, or like what's the process for that?
So for the curly tail lizards, she only eats live as of right now. So it's still kind of working through the steps there. You got to get them on frozen thawed. From there, but as far as the anoles go, I mean, I've got the option to get them frozen thawed, but I mean, I'm just sending them in one shipment. So I'm just I take them in live because they're different with the curly tails. So
Gotcha. Yeah. Nice. William, do you have a source for feeder lizards that you prefer?
I don't need them too often, but I'll be getting them from the same place that he does. But I will acquire some that might come on the property or something. But the important thing that I want to say about feeding, if you were to catch a lizard, obviously you want to make sure that it's legal to do that. Yeah. But it's important that it's put in the freezer, because if something is caught from the wild, it could contain parasites. So if I'm going to feed one to one of my whip snakes, then I want to make sure that I put it in the freezer for at least a couple days, so that parasite is eliminated and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, so I was going to say there's also like a period that they need to be frozen. It's not like leave them in there for a day, pull it out the next, and you're done. Yeah. There's got to be a sitting period. It's the same way with most fish.
Yeah. For most domestic parasites, usually within, 3 to 4 days, but when you get some of the parasites from Asia and Africa, they are very resistant to even freezes. So they may require even more than that. So that was a good point.
Yeah. I had the same deal with fish. I was talking to Chris Montross, and I went and kind of cast netted some baby brim out of my dad's old pond, and put them in frozen. And I was like, hey, I can feed these in a couple of days, right? He's like, no. He's like, leave those things frozen for a minute, because I think fish parasites are kind of the same way. They can put up with freezes for a while, so you got to leave them in there.
I mean, they kind of have to by design.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now I get frozen tilapia fillets from my water snakes, and they love those.
I still haven't tried tilapia with anything.
Dude, my Nerodia go nuts for them. I try to give each one of them 1 or 2 mice just to kind of get the bones and the gut contents, and then it's just a bunch of chopped up tilapia. And some of them eat off plates, some of them eat off tongs. And, I've kind of learned all of my groups. One group, I just put down a plate of chopped up pinks and tilapia, and they just go freaking nuts. But you obscure guys need to start working with some Nerodia, man.
Oh, I love Nerodia. I absolutely love Nerodia. I always have.
They're a pleasure to work with, man.
Even though they're nasty and once you get past that musky stage, they're actually really great animals.
Yeah, no, mine, I have a group right now that's actually very, I don't like to use the word interactive, because that refers to, domesticated. I don't really consider any snakes, domestic animals. No. But very inquisitive, very fun. Anytime I open the cage, they're all, head bobbing up. Yes, I was looking for food, but I can reach my hand right in there and pick them up. I don't trust any of my carpet pythons just reach in the cage, but as far as Nerodia, pretty much all of them, that aren't defensive, they know my hand isn't food and I can reach right in and grab them most of the time. Unless there's food in the room, then it's a no-go. But no, they've been extremely fun. Definitely taken some getting used to. They're different than anything else I keep. But they're now that I've kind of dialed it in, they've been a pleasure to work with. They're fun. Next, I want some stuff from your neck of the woods, Connor. I want some Diamondback waters.
Yeah, well, we can make that happen.
Collect the whole set.
Yeah, definitely.
I would love Diamondbacks, man. I caught my biggest Nerodia. I caught in Corpus Christi when I was living out there, and this was a Diamondback water, dude. I shit you not, this thing was 5 foot long.
Wow,
I believe
I have a picture. I'm like fully, I'm like 5'9", 5'10". I'm like fully stretched out with this thing all the way across. It was just massive.
awesome.
I fell in the water grabbing it, and it was laying on a log, and I didn't realize how big it was, but I grabbed her by the tail, and she was dumping off this log, and I pulled her up, and she was almost as long as I was, and I was like, what the hell is this thing? It was insane, man. It was the coolest thing. Its head was almost as big as my fist, dude. It was. Well, they're such impressive animals.
Yeah. If so, there's a little bit more obscure species of Nerodia. The Chancho water snake, Nerodia pacumulata, or something like that. They used to be on the state protected list, but for whatever reason, they've been taken off. And I've inquired with Texas Park and Wildlife like 3 or 4 different occasions, and they are not protected at all anymore. So my goal, if I can make things line up with my insane schedule, I would like to spend some time in their habitat, try and collect a few, I don't know, and then get them out of the state to people that cannot have to worry about maybe a potential change with legal
right.
I think that'd be really cool to see them in the hobby, because I mean they're a smaller, more narrow-headed Nerodia species. They're kind of brown, not super. I mean they do have some patterning to them, kind of, but
They almost look like a natrix.
Yeah. If you Google them, they look like the Natrix Mara. I forget what species that one is.
Mm-hmm.
That's
exactly that species.
So are they kind of similar to like a mangrove or a Clark eye?
They're on the smaller side, like one of those.
I meant like as far as size goes, because Clark eye can be, an adult male. Montrose sent me pictures of breeding males that are like freaking 9 inches long,
Yeah. I haven't actually seen them in person. But from the photos and stuff that I've seen and people posting pictures of them like in hand and things like that, I would say similar size there to Clarkie or something like that. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That would be really cool. I'm kind of paranoid about, and again, this is just me personally because I don't know them as well. Acclimating, talking to Chris about acclimating wild caught waters.
Right.
It's different than acclimating, and then taking care of the parasite load, because water snakes filled with parasites. Yeah, because of all the different crap they eat, and getting rid of those safely and properly can be very, very difficult, So I think if you did something like that, find some really young ones, that haven't spent their entire lives in the swamps,
and
go about it like that. That would be awesome, man. But enough Nerodia rant. Let's get to some coach whips. So between the two of you guys, let's talk about some care, some different aspects to keeping them, and some advice that y'all would give people.
And are we talking like westerns? Like, have either of you ever had easterns?
Yeah, I've had easterns.
Yeah, and I guess you kind of include that
compared to westerns.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I've noticed between the two is that easterns are a little more aggressive. I've had some individuals that never really seem to calm down per se. A few individuals that might refuse food a little more often than Testacea, the Western coach whip. So I think that the Western coach whip is a little bit easier to keep than the Eastern is. But with that said, a lot of people have good luck with Easterns, and I have too. But every now and then, you just have a fluke that comes up and, they have issues. So.
God, I never, like, I see Westerns unclassifieds and stuff fairly regularly, but I don't. And
Mhm.
maybe I'm also not really actively looking, but I haven't seen nearly as many Easterns over the years.
And they're all like fresh wild caught.
I've
Like,
never even
you
seen a
know,
wild Eastern, so like,
I've never seen
come
one
across
either,
one.
you know. But
I'm
like
starting to
my
think
thing
they're
is
not real.
like, I absolutely love coach whips. They've been a bucket list herping species of mine for years now. You know, you kind of got to go to the sandhills to find them a little easier, at least in my state. I know we can get them in Beaufort. I think you got to go northern Beaufort a little bit more, but it is harder to find them. I've never seen one, but I absolutely love the species. And I'm also kind of like you guys, where I like to keep things kind of like in my area. Obviously, I keep carpet pythons and Barons racers, but like I love yellow rats, you know, stuff from South Carolina, stuff from Florida, that southeastern region of things, you know, I love those. So if I were to ever get coach whips, like I would really, really love to get Easterns. But again, hard to come by, you know, especially anything long-term captive or captive bred at that, for God's sake. That's next to impossible.
Pretty much, I've said this before, but I just check Fauna, Morph Market, King Snake, and then all the Facebook groups. Like, literally, I start my day off doing that every single morning to make sure that I don't miss anything, because I don't really have a life, I guess, but whatever. I like snakes, so it's okay. So that's how you come across stuff like that. I know Matthew Dove, actually, if you guys are familiar with him.
Yeah, I know him well.
Yeah, he used to have he used to have a pair of Eastern coach whips. I think he's down to just one now. There's been a handful of people I know that have produced Eastern coach whips before. Not sure if they're still doing it. You know, it's kind of been like, yes, I produced these, you know, on to the next thing with some of these people, unfortunately. But it'd be really awesome to see people producing Eastern coach whips into like the F2s or F3s if we ever get there, you know. They require a lot of work to get started off. So, but
that's why like we need somebody to really do it, you know. I would love to do it. I would love to be the person to really run that off, because like that's how everything starts.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
Everything's hard as hell when it's wild caught, you're fresh, getting it established, like, and it's going to be no different, if not worse, with something like a coach whip, you know. But you get that thing 3 generations, 4 generations deep, you never know. That thing could be eating pinkies out of the egg, you know. Maybe pinky parts because they're small. No, definitely not scaleless. But no, man, I would love to see that, you know, because I think, in my opinion, Eastern coach whips are one of the most beautiful snakes on the planet. You know, I find them just absolutely gorgeous, from that black to tan fading to even some of them being just jet black. They're incredible.
Yeah, but have you ever kept a normal ball python?
Yes, I have one, thanks to somebody in this group that isn't Connor.
You're going to sit there with a straight face and tell me Spurgeon isn't prettier than the Eastern coach whip?
No.
No,
he's not. I'm not out of my mind. He chills. I still got him, but if I could trade Spurgeon for an Eastern coach whip, even a wild caught one, I would do it.
You're gonna sell out my boy like
I
that?
respect that decision. That's a good decision.
I would give away.
He was a gift.
I would
gift
give
that
away,
keeps on giving.
Yes, I would give away. Yeah, the gift that eats a jumbo mouse every 2 weeks.
That's too much.
That's too much.
If I don't, he flips his water dish and gets pissy.
Well, then.
Okay, it's not. I don't have a choice. I was
going to say take his water bowl away, but you can't do that.
Yeah, no, it's annoying. No, I would give him away. Like the second I have the chance.
Sounds like you need yourself a coach whip, Mike.
Yeah. So, kind of going back to, I guess, care there for coach whips.
Yeah.
Feel free to add on anything, William, if you see anything that I'm saying that's different from what you do. I mean, I'm open to whatever.
Good, man.
But I mean, so as far as adults go, I try and provide as large of enclosures that I can. Usually I just scroll through, you know, as I'm going through Facebook and stuff like that, I'll check Facebook Marketplace and find just large aquariums that I can find. Those have worked out pretty well. As far as the largest cage that I've got, it's like 150 gallons that I've got for one individual. But I mean, it kind of fills up space, so you're kind of limited there. Let's see. Definitely, they need lighting. We talked about that with the spasmosis and how it's kind of similar to the Masticophis there. UVB, I would recommend that just because you're trying to simulate as much as you can to, I guess, what they experience outside. Not saying that I keep them in like bioactive whatever setups, but I think lighting is important for them.
But UV on that regard, I mean, if you're choosing UV for coach whips, especially I guess Westerns in particular, like you're not going to go with like a shade dweller or something. Like you're going to go for something a little stronger.
Yeah, I'm going for I guess the desert or whatever the Zilla box says with all that.
Sun in a bulb.
That one. Yeah.
The nuclear explosion in the sky edition.
Yeah, but I provide just one of those UVB bulbs in one side with a nice heat bulb there and things like that, and then provide, like I said before, with the talking about the racers, having those nice kind of visual barriers there provides some nice basking opportunity as well. They can get as close as they can to the heating element and things like that. I think the warmest spot in one of my enclosures is sitting around like 97 degrees or so. It's a nice warm basking temperature there. And the ambient temperature is like right around like low 80s there. So they get a good temperature gradient there. And then I do think that humidity gradients are important as well. A lot of times you'll see coach whips that have kind of almost like the cracked scale look to them. That's from just like some really dry heat, I guess. I provide what I call like a shed box for all my animals.
Humid hide.
Humid hide. Yeah, humid hide, something like that. Yeah. For my animals that are off of aspen, or that are on aspen, excuse me. I've got a few animals that are still on aspen that I provide the humid hides for. But everybody else just has like a sand topsoil mix. And if I notice them going into blue, I just spray their enclosure down really well. And then just kind of the humidity that kind of comes from itself gives them a nice full shed where we don't have to worry about crack scales or something like that.
Yeah.
So as far as
I've been giving my stuff small humid hides for the most part. And I was really surprised at just how much like Bairds and Corns and Diones and stuff would use them. Like I really didn't think that they'd give them much thought, but it's like when they go into a shed cycle, like they hang out in that humid hide for like a week straight until they come out of that. And I was really surprised. I was like, yeah, they'll probably use it here a little bit here and there, but they really do use it on a regular basis. Like it was really surprising.
Dude, my Pitchuophis live in their humid hides. Like I don't have humid hides and everything because I noticed some really didn't need it as much and they didn't use them as much, so I don't have them for a lot of them. But I've noticed with my Pitchuophis, I wasn't having shedding problems, but I got on one of my northern pines, I got an eye cap that was stuck, and for whatever reason, I could not get it off for the life of me. So instead of damaging her eye, I added humid hides to everything that was having a slight problem because for whatever reason with some of my pits, I get like a piece of an eye cap. Like I can see it, but it's just like a little line in their eye, and that just bothers the hell out of me, but you can't get it off. And I don't like rubbing an eye that doesn't have a full eye cap on it. So I added humid hides to a lot of my Pitchuophis cages, almost all of them now, or in this case my rack systems. And next shed for that northern specifically, it was gone. So it's humid hides go a long way, man. I've got them in pretty much all my pits now, except for my Janai. The Janai really doesn't need it.
If you think about the ground, the deeper you go into the ground, the moisture picks up.
Yep.
So a lot of these animals, they live in holes in the ground or under debris where there's higher moisture. So that's what
especially Pitchuophis.
Yeah. And even coach whips, you would never think that, they don't need any humidity, but actually they do require humidity.
But that's
it is good to have a humidity box, and a lot of times they have been found close to lakes, which I always thought was weird, but I've seen a few of them close to water. So
that's why I think humid hides are so good, because if they don't need high humidity, the cage isn't humid,
Right.
but if they want
Yeah.
it, they can
Mhm.
access it.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest difference, you know, especially with a lot of colubrids in general, you know, like
Mhm.
they don't, most North American colubrids don't need high humidity in the overall cage. But
No.
again, most of them will access it if it's there during periods, shed cycles, etc. You know,
Yep.
and it's huge. I notice them anytime they go into a shed cycle, all my pits just dive on into that
Yeah.
human hide. And my black pines, like even one of them just shed, and she's still hanging out in there. You
Nice.
know, like it's just a good thing to have, you know, for anything.
Yeah, it's like a massive pet peeve of mine. I mean, it happens just because people read their information from whatever I don't know where I'm going with this really, but whenever I see a post and it's like it is 35% humidity or 40% like the desired humidity for my snake's cage, and I'm like, man, like just a shed
It's
box
never
is
the
fine,
same.
you know,
Yeah.
like tell me it's going to be 35% humidity like all the time wherever your ball python comes from. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But it's just whatever. I
Splitting hairs.
kind of
Yeah,
get
but, and that's the thing. Like that's also like I'm with you, Connor, big time. You know, like obviously if you're dealing with something like Brazilian rainbows, different ball game. Pretty much needs to be humid all the time. Stuff like that, and white lips needs to be humid a lot. You know, but all your stuff, like pretty much all snakes, when they go into a shed cycle and they want that humidity, they go hide in a humid area. You know, so having an area in your enclosure that is humid, it doesn't have to be all the time. If you notice them going to a shed cycle, you notice them going there, spray it down. That spot stays humid. It might raise the enclosure humidity slightly, but it's not going to be so much that where it's bad for them, but they can access it for a period. And I would go to say as far as 85 to 90% of captive snakes that we keep would benefit from that, you know, because it's just a humid spot for them. It's not the entire cage is humid, you know, like I have very small access holes, literally just big enough for snakes to get into. It doesn't fill up the enclosure, doesn't fog anything out, but that moss stays moist, you know. And
But you know what you can do, Jake, is you can, when you get a cage from BlackBox, you can add one of the new subterranean hides.
They have those now?
They do.
What?
So instead of it having a hole in the front, it has a hole on the top. And so, like, if I was going to use that, I'd totally clear out substrate, put it in there, and then mount it up around it, and probably throw some moss and stuff in there and make
Right
that
here.
a human hide.
This is exactly what I do. So this is one of the tubs that I use. Got a little hole right there, and that's a black pine that shed not too long ago.
That
inside
moss
of
looks
it.
dry as hell.
Well, it probably is. No, I just wetted it.
Simplicity is almost better though.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. You know, I get these from your local place. I melt a little hole in there, just big enough for everybody to get in. And they literally the day I added them, it was game on, you know, for them. And then I got some bigger tubs for my other pits. This one in particular has my female. I can get this thing out. My female albino Florida. This is a tub that stays in a 70 quart, and you can kind of see her in there, sort of. But she's in a shed cycle. She's about to get paired up with the male. She's buzzing at me now. But she fits in there. She barely fits in there because she's pushing 5.5 foot long. But yeah, stuff like that. It's perfect. It's simple. It's easy. Melt a hole big enough for them to get in.
I think you should just keep it in that
perfectly.
tub. Forget the V70.
Yeah, no, that's screw the enclosure. Let her live in there. She basically does. She's been in there ever since her shed cycle. She's been in there for days, and it's same thing with my other female fork line gopher from Brewster County is also in hers right now. So there's something to be said for humid hides, and I think it's something that a lot of people sleep on, and they shouldn't. So,
yep, I agree with that.
that's just my 2 cents. But what do I know?
Do you find, Connor, with those bigger setups that you have the Masticophis in, are those like, are they? You have a lot of climbing options and stuff for them. Like, are they taking advantage of the vertical space?
Yeah, so all of my Pisces will use them. I used to have a stripe whip snake, which is now with William. That used it quite a bit too. But they'll come out of their hide for a bit. They'll kind of climb around and bask up underneath the light for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say about maybe 30 minutes to an hour or so, and then they'll kind of just cruise around their enclosure. If I come in being crazy or whatnot, they'll kind of go run off and hide. But for the most part, they're out either basking on the ground level, or they're up in the kind of, I don't want to say canopy, but up in the branches and things like that.
Right.
Your flagellum, your coach whip subspecies there, I find them to be a little bit more, almost more terrestrial, a little bit, just a bit, not compared. I mean, like my Western coach whips that I have, they're all climbing all over, whatever. I see them in habitat, climbing up a little bit too as well. But they're just kind of a little bit thicker, heavier bodied animals. So I see them a little bit more on kind of the more ground level there, whereas my whip snakes are a little bit more up in the branches and things like that there, or shrubbery or whatever it is in the enclosure there. So yeah, I do.
Feel like
go ahead. Oh, okay. I've got an imported species of Masticophis from Costa Rica, the Masticophis mentivarius. Haven't really posted about it much, just because I've kind of been waiting for it to settle in a bit. William's seen a few pictures and it's rocking on, so I'm happy to kind of bring that up now. But I mean, it's definitely, that species is more heavy-bodied compared to your North American Masticophis. They've been described as more similar in like weight and heft and girthiness to like a Crebo or something like that. But they still have the speed. They still have the speed of a coach whip. This guy, I wouldn't say that he's at adult length, but he is quite a large animal there. He is very, very hefty and very thick there. I'll post some pictures of him later in the week. But he's doing great, and he seems to be more terrestrial rather. I'll see him kind of come up and periscope up, and kind of take advantage of some of the lighting there. But I haven't seen him actually in the branches that I provided yet.
Those look a ton like Malapon.
Yeah. That is
so
actually.
I would be curious with them if you provided. So with some of my carpets and even my rat snakes, I provide. Granted, it doesn't look natural, but I provide these. The shelves that they're like plastic shelving units you can get at Walmart. They stack like 5 high. You get them for like $40. A lot of people use them for stacking snake tubs. I get those and I cut the legs down a little bit and I use it as like a platform for them to bask on versus like a bunch of small things, because carpets really prefer shelves, and I've noticed rat snakes really like shelves as well. Something to kind of lay flat on. I would wonder if coach whips wouldn't benefit from something like that versus, because if they're a hefty bodied animal, the uncomfortable feeling of half their body laying down isn't that great, but being able to lay on a flat surface elevated, closer to a light, I would wonder if they couldn't benefit from something like that.
I mean, yeah, it'd be something cool to try. I mean, in their habitats, especially out in like West Texas and further west, they're kind of like around rock cuts and things like that.
Yeah, like
so
rock,
wouldn't
flat
surprise
rocks.
me, for them to take advantage of that. I mean, it's just something I haven't offered yet. But that's a good note and something that I can try. Yeah,
pretty cool. It's just something I've noticed with carpets especially, they really like those flat platforms to kind of lay up on. And I've got a big yellow rat that I have one of those in, and he lays on that thing all the time, soaking up UVB. But what I was going to say earlier, where you brought up about like shrubbery type of stuff, I think there's something to be said for like low lying perching options, something to get off the ground slightly, but not like all the way up to the top, completely elevated type of stuff, because I found several snakes that are like, not even a foot off the ground in some type of shrub,
Space efficiency.
Right, exactly. I think a lot of snakes can take advantage of being slightly off the ground, but not all the way up to the ceiling, you know, type of deal. And, you know, I think there's something to be said for setting up stuff like that, you know, kind of shrubbery type deal.
Yeah, it helps create a good temperature gradient too. Multiple areas where they can kind of hone in like exactly where they want to be. They don't have to be right up under the light, you know, they don't have to be on the very bottom, you know, where it's low 80s. You know, they can kind of pick a kind of in between wherever
right
they are the best. But
exactly.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like a platform could also kind of come into play, have something higher up to where they can lay flat and then maybe have another level underneath it and just have those different gradients coming down from it. You know, I think it could be beneficial for them.
Are you limiting, like when you have UV on them, are they getting it, you know, for most of the day? Or are you limited it to a couple hours a day? Like, how do you have that set up?
I don't have a really like fancy enough system to kind of limit it, but I just do kind of just your standard photo period for summertime, which is like, I don't know, it's like 14 hours, something like that right now. So.
And you do that for UVB or just UV in general?
UVB and just their heat bulb as well.
Yeah.
That's what I've got.
I asked that because I know a lot of people kind of, you know, a lot of people who do UVB are more like they give the UVA from the basking bulb, you know, like for, you know, 10 hours a day or whatever. But a lot of people just do the UVB for 3 or 4 hours a day. So, like, I know obviously it's different by species.
Right.
So, yeah, that's why I asked that, you know.
Yeah, I'll cut off. Like, I have UV on the Jansen eye, and there are some days where I won't even turn on their UV. Like, you know, they get it, same thing. Like, I'll turn it on and they'll have access to it for, you know, from lights on to lights off. But every now and then, especially if there's like an overcast day or a day that it's raining, I'll usually cut it off just to kind of match up with barometric pressures and stuff like that.
I almost think it wouldn't be bad to leave it off for an entire day, just to kind of stimulate a cloudy, rainy day. You know, maybe one day leave kind of everything off, spray them down a little bit, you know, maybe during a shed cycle or whatever, just kind of stimulate that rainy day, cloudy, you know, hideaway kind of day, you know. And I don't know, it'd be kind of cool to mess around with stuff like that to really try and stimulate natural, you know, behaviors.
Right. Something I haven't really thought of before, so it's neat.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So with you know, and again, question for both of you. With coach whips are they're a big snake. They're not a small coluber, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of Easterns and Westerns can reach up to close to 6 foot. around
even larger,
around 6 foot plus in length, correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
there's Easterns that have exceeded over 8.5 feet.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that and be wrong, but that's kind of what I thought.
No, you would not be wrong in saying that.
Yeah.
I've heard some people claim 11 feet, but I don't think that is accurate.
That's pushing it a little bit. But I would believe 8 foot all day. Yeah. You know, but being a slender bodied animal for the most part, at least most of them are, as far as like enclosure size, for something that's pushing 6 foot, you know, in length, are you going for like a lot of people think in PVC cage terms versus aquarium. So I'm going to ask in like gallons or I'm going to ask in feet versus gallons. Mm-hmm. Are you looking for something like a 4x2 for a 6 foot animal? Or are you looking for something like a 6x3 for a 6 foot coach whip? Because I know they're very active. They move around a lot. I'm almost positive the bigger the better for something like coach whip. But for an adult, you know, pushing 6 foot plus, what's the minimum like footage enclosure that y'all would find adequate?
The size you mentioned,
4x2
first size. Yeah, that would be the minimum. Yeah.
Okay.
That will work for a while. That works really good for like a fresh wild caught individual, because sometimes if you just throw them into a huge cage, for some reason it causes more stress. They're constantly going around trying to get out. And if you put them in a little bit smaller cage with a hide, they have to have a hide always. It makes them feel more secure, and they calm down and they're able to focus on their meals. And when they have a larger cage, sometimes it's almost like they just, I don't know, they just don't perform as well. I mean, I hate to say
It's just
perform,
nonstop, kind of stressed out, like looking
right,
for where to go.
right.
Yeah, no.
But with that
Yeah.
said, they do need to be moved up to a larger cage. 6 feet is great. I mean, I had a cage even larger than that, and actually, I'm hoping to build one in one of my rooms where it's a walk-in enclosure. Where I can walk in,
Okay.
and they have half of the dang room so that they can crawl, climb, whatever they want to do. So, but to get them established at first, I wouldn't just throw them in a massive cage. But that's
Right.
that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah.
Overall, what are you using? Like hides, are you more particular with the size of the hides for coach whips than you would be other stuff?
Not really. I mean, a 5-foot coach whip can actually curl up to about like that.
Oh yeah,
And they're
It's
quite
not even
comfortable like
smaller.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for me personally, I like to use a hide that looks real natural. Obviously, I want one. I don't know. I don't know what the measurement would be. I always go by feel with these things. I've just kept them for a while, and so for me, the first thing I look at is, okay, is this naturalistic? Is it going to look like a rock or a stump or whatever? But I would say for an adult 5-foot coach, at least a foot long hide.
Right.
So they have enough room to comfortably curl up.
Mm-hmm.
But you could make it even bigger if you wanted to, and then also in addition to the humidity hide, which is really important.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem like it would be that important, but it really is.
No,
In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Well, I mean, the only reason I ask is the one Eastern coach whip that I've had experience with, which was at the the nature center I worked at, as my very first job. It wasn't a big one, but it had a hide that was like a makeshift. It was a box that had a hole cut in it, like almost like a birdhouse, but it had a lid that had
A latch on or something.
Yeah, and it was it lived in that thing. Like I'd see it for about, it was like my Jansen 9, like I'd see it for about 2 seconds, and usually it was just hanging its head out of that hole, and as soon as you walked in the room, it was gone.
Yeah.
And anytime I fed it, just offered it food right in that hole of the box, and then they would grab it and eat it in there. Like, so I was curious if that, if there's been any shift there in terms of preference for something more spacious hide wise that is more like a box in a box kind of thing.
I don't really think that they have a huge kind of preference as far as what, I mean, it just, whatever provides cover and they can secure themselves, I think that's fine. I've got some stacked tile that I use with kind of some bricks and things like that.
Yeah.
Kind of nice angular hides like that. And then in my quarantine setups, I'm just using just cardboard boxes, I keep them on for a bit, it's nothing you'd want to do long term, but I keep very sterile quarantine setups at first, especially if I buy an animal from a show or something like that, which I don't do hardly ever anymore. Mainly it's just people that are close enough friends to just gift me animals, which I'm very fortunate to have that relationship with certain individuals. But yeah, I mean, just
wild caught animals don't have mites. Just saying.
Well, yeah, I know, but I want to monitor the fecals and things like that. But especially if you get an expo pickup, you got to always be cautious at expos and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I'm one of those people when it comes to hides, and this kind of goes for anything. I kind of go as small as possible because, in my opinion, at least this is what I've noticed with snakes. They love to be able to cram, obviously within reason. You don't want to make it uncomfortable for them. You want to be able to fit their whole bodies in them. But I go as small as humanly possible for the snake to fit in because, in my opinion, I have found snakes literally in stuff that you would never think they could actually fit in, but they do it because that's where they feel comfortable. Like their comfortability is being crammed up. That's how they feel safe. They feel tight. They feel secure. So that's just me. And I feel like that goes for a lot of things. I feel like coach whips could especially benefit from something, being able to, Yeah, using the word cram is kind of small because, are kind of, some people may take that the wrong way. I don't mean it in a negative way. But if a snake can cram into something and be tight but secure, I feel like it's one of the best routes to go.
Dude, I've had like paper towel tubes with bears that have
I use paper
put
towel
themselves
rolls
in there so hard that I would
religiously.
have to cut them out. If I wanted to get them out, I'd have to get some
Yes.
scissors and cut that snake out of that tube.
Yes.
And people are going to
They like
complain
that pressure.
not in a big.
They're used to that kind of pressure.
Huge cages.
Exactly.
But it's like, they need bigger enclosures. It's not big enough. And then you're like, you literally see that it probably took it like 30 minutes just to get itself into this tube, right? Like, it's not.
I use paper towel rolls religiously because they're small, but they're elongated. So something relatively big can actually fit in a paper towel roll pretty comfortably. And dude, my snakes absolutely love paper towel rolls. I know it's not naturalistic, it's not pretty, but I'm looking at fucking 10 of them right now, and 6 enclosures up a
They're
rack.
biodegradable.
They're easy. You can just throw them out. They crap on them, and they're. I love paper towel rolls. Yeah,
I think some of their most favorite cover in the wild. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, yeah, you're fine. Yeah, go ahead. You're fine.
I was just gonna say I think some of their favorite cover in the wild anyway is artificial cover. So I'm sure they're more than happy with that.
I say that to so many people. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm like, I can't tell you how many snakes I have found in literal trash.
Oh, yeah.
Just hanging out in plastic. We find them under tin all the time. It's literal garbage.
I found coach whips under carpet. They love carpet. Yeah. Carpets and coach whips. And also buttermilks and carpet. It's a thing. They love it.
I'm telling you, man, they'll squeeze into anything that's tight, and I'm one of those people, I don't like to waste stuff, so I use something as long as I can, and I go through so many paper towels, it's not even fucking funny. So being able to use paper towel rolls is just an extra benefit. Yes, I eventually throw it out when they get soiled, but
every roll comes with a free HUD.
Exactly. Like that, dude, I have a stack of them sitting right here. I have a water snake in one of my enclosures, so I set mine out. I put like a wire perch in a lot of my water snake and rat snake enclosures. I use like the wire fencing from Lowe's and stuff. It works really well for perches. So I set that up, and I usually put a paper towel roll on top of it for like an elevated eye. I have a water snake that literally lives in that paper towel roll elevated off the ground. She never leaves it. I feed her in that thing every single week. And it's kind of ridiculous, but my snakes absolutely love those paper towel rolls. They're fantastic. No, they don't look great. They're not naturalistic, but I'll be damned if the snakes don't absolutely love them. So.
What up with the Hypsiglena?
Well,
they are the shit.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. I enjoy them. Keeping 2 species currently. I'd like to expand that into maybe 4 if I'm lucky enough. But we'll see how that goes. Not really something you really see very often in captivity, so they're kind of hard to source without getting them yourself.
Daytona like the year before last, and someone's selling them for like $30 a piece.
Jesus.
And I am kicking myself.
That's actually not a terrible price at all.
It is not. Yeah. I mean, they were for sure like wild caught.
Yeah, yeah.
They almost always will be.
I was like, I think the only thing that's deterred me, man, is just the fact that the steady supply of lizards. I mean, we have the Mediterranean geckos here. Mm-hmm. I have some in my garage here somewhere. I think I've got a colony that's set up shop in my attic.
Nice.
But we have the green anoles everywhere. I don't know how well anoles work compared to other like geckos and stuff.
Yeah. So with the Jani and the Torquata, which are the Texas night snakes, your Jani texana, that might be an old term. I don't know. And then the Torquata, your desert night snakes, they have all with the exception of 2 coming back out of hibernation, have been doing great on anoles. They came to me and I just threw in live anoles, and they work great on that. But these other 2 coming out of hibernation, they reverted to banded geckos, back to their factory settings.
Ow. Man, I would have so the turkey geckos are cool, but I don't know if I could in good conscience feed Coleonyx.
Yeah, well,
man.
Unfortunately, I had to do that. I had some that I was planning to breed to offer like baby gecko tails to some of these hatchlings that I have to see if that would be more favorable to them rather than a mouse
they're
tail.
that small, aren't they?
Yeah, I've got one right here that I can show you. So I got 2 Texas night snakes originally from Eric Lago, E Squared Exotics. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. I believe he's in Missouri or something.
Yeah,
like
I've been
that.
following him for a while. He's got some really cool stuff.
Yeah, he does. And
Holy shit!
Yeah, so this is a baby from November. Hatched it in November. Very small snake here. I've got 2 that I'm assist feeding mouse tails to. You get them down about halfway, and they eat the rest of the tail there. Doing great, gaining weight. I don't know if you can really see that at all, but really small snakes.
That's so small.
And they're just one of my favorite freaking lizards. I mean,
What are you keeping those in?
So back whenever I was originally purchasing anoles from PetSmart for my feeders for my adults, I just built up a bunch of excess deli cups from them. So I've got them in these deli cups here. I fold up a paper towel into quarters, and then that provides some nice kind of like crack hiding for them to kind of get in between the paper towels and kind of wedge themselves there. Yep. And then I've got like one of those small like little hatchling water bowls, like the little sauce container things. I've got one of those in there that I fill up about halfway, and that provides enough humidity in there for them to have full sheds and to have a healthy water source for the week. And then I kind of change those out, But yeah, I mean they're growing slow. They're getting more length than girth to them, which is kind of neat, But they're still having good body composition, physical appearance, stuff like that. But they're doing great. And then let me pull out one of my larger ones. This girl here came to me with part of a group of 3 from another friend. I don't know if you guys know Stu Tennyson.
Yep.
But he sent, he asked some friends that went out herping if they would collect a kind of Hypsiglena enthusiast, if they would collect some Hypsiglena for me. So I don't have any locality information on this group of 3 in an effort to save or protect locality sites and stuff like that. But here is an adult female Jani, Texas night snake. This girl has eaten. She's eaten fuzzies for me in the past. And I don't feed rodents as a primary diet, but coming out of hibernation, it's good to kind of get a little bit of fat on them too.
Yeah.
I like nice leaner animals, so she's still a little chunky for my liking. But I mean, she takes large and extra large anoles, and she's doing great. I feed her every like 2 weeks or so. I'm just trying to kind of thin her down a little bit, just because she is more like built like a pit bull right now.
So that's an adult female.
This is an adult female Texas night snake. Yeah.
I think maybe the biggest one we found when we were there was probably close to that, but even then, I think that's bigger than what we saw.
Yeah, so they can
get a little bigger, but that's usually an old individual.
Yeah. Do you guys know Jordan Parrott?
Yep.
Yeah, so I was talking to him at an NARBC expo, the NARBC Arlington last fall about night snakes. So that's the first time getting to meet him and talk to him in person. I guess we chatted a few times before, but he told me that
my original male hypo bears came from him.
Nice.
Like 3.
Nice. Yeah, he's doing a lot of really cool things.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
But yeah, he was telling me that his baseball coach growing up had a 3-foot Texas night snake, which is insane, and it ate hoppers, which is crazy. I could not imagine a night snake that large. Yeah, they're neat little secretive nocturnal snakes. Going back to the humid hides, I provide those for all my animals. They are in their humid hide pretty much like the entire day, and then I'll take them out, or excuse me, sorry, they'll come out whenever I'm getting home after work after my night shift in the restaurant industry, and they'll be just climbing around on their little universal rock backgrounds. So it's cool. Getting to see the Masticophis and other stuff that I get in glossy snakes and stuff during the day as they're kind of going around, and then it's cool coming back and seeing something else move around. But I've got 2 desert night snakes here. I'm sure you guys know Adam Roth. He was nice enough to gift these to me. They came to me as rodent feeders, and like I said, I try not to feed an exclusive rodent diet. But I mean,
Is that the torcata?
Yeah. This is the torcata here. This is the largest night snake that I've seen in person. Which I mean, I haven't been out to West Texas yet. I plan to go out there this summer. But this girl is pretty big. She's as long as my forearm. You can't really tell in I guess the video or whatnot. But she's a beast. Got a nice. You can kind of tell how snakes have like a big head. Like the big snakes have like a big head. I don't know if it's really showing that well or not.
I'm blowing you up.
Okay.
It's
not really showing that great on my iPhone. I apologize. But she's a nice big.
Yeah, that's a nice
wow.
Big one here. I think
Nice.
she's definitely over a foot. I haven't measured her like recently, but she's like over like the 20, or she's approaching the 20-inch mark there. So she's a quite sizable desert night snake here.
They look like Antaresia. I just realized that.
They do.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So much like Antaresia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my last desert night snake that I'll show you. I only have 2 females here. She's got a more bold patterning, which I really like. She's from she's from Arizona, and she was, like I said, a gift. It was very important to note that you can't buy direct wild caught animals from Arizona. So I mean, these have been gifts from people that I do trust. It's important for me to keep everything that I do legal, just because I do have a very niche interest, and I don't want that taken away from me.
Yeah.
So everything here is kosher, everything's legal. But yeah, just really, really beautiful, kind of like a lighter background with a kind of more dark, bold patterning. I'll text you guys some pictures so you can see really what she looks like. But she's insane, and just a nice big girl. And I'd love to get a male so that I can produce these guys. Right now, I've got a smaller pair of Texas night snakes that I've got together currently because there's a nice pressure change system going through. So I'm hoping to get some eggs or something like that if I'm lucky enough. The female just did her prelation, or not, excuse me, sorry, her kind of coming out of hibernation shed. I'm not sure what you would call that. You're blanking on the term.
Post hibernation.
Yeah, sure. The ovulation or something like that, shed or something like that. I think it is. I don't know. But I've got them together, so hopefully the magic happens. But those are my banded gecko feeders. So I gotta beg some people to ship me some expensive feeders.
Cheap feeders.
Yeah. I was listening to a Corn Stars episode actually where Chris was talking about kind of muddling up a banded gecko tail in some frozen water, and I plan to try that technique once I get some in to scent anoles, which is going to be kind of weird, scenting a lizard with a lizard. But that's the anoles are the more readily available source for me currently. So that's my plan with those. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy keeping them. They are rear fanged. So, I mean, if you want to keep them, look at your laws, I haven't been bit by any of these. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some record somewhere of somebody getting bit by them, but I'm not sure really what the effect of that would be. There is a, forgetting the name. I just texted Justin the link of it the other day. But there's someone doing venom research on your Trimorphodon, your lyre snakes, and then your Hypsiglena as well, your night snakes, things like that. Just seeing if there's any proteins in there that we can use for human medicine. So that was kind of an interesting note there.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what they find in that venom to see if there's any use for it. It's just kind of cool there.
That's such a good species. Yeah. If someone wanted to do a setup that was, mimicking or a recreation of like a cut.
Yeah.
Like that would be such a good species for that, because when we were walking cuts and stuff, we'd find them, right at the bottom of the cuts, just following the actual base of the cut itself, and finding some old like grasses to, I took pictures of the cuts and stuff when we were there, so I could, if I ever did do like a natural-ish Baird setup, I could have some sort of context to sort of try and recreate something.
Right. Yeah.
But those and like something like a small exo,
that's exactly what I've got going with one of my girls. This is actually the first night snake that I ever had, or that I kept, is in one of those setups. She's right here. I'll get her in like a little travel box, but she's got a more like kind of orangey brown. Mm-hmm. This lighting is absolute shit, so you can't really see her colors. But she's beautiful. She's one of my favorites. Really another one from Eric. Do what?
So they're really handsome snakes. Like they're not super flashy or anything like that, but man, like playing with them when we were there, they're just, it's such a cool little snake, man. Their little eyes and
their whole like facial structure is like so cool. And the yellow with those eyes is just.
It's my favorite feature on a Hypsiglena is the underside, the ventrals. They have a pearlescence to them. I don't know if you've noticed that, but the next one you get your hands on. Just hold the belly against the sun, and it literally looks like a pearl. I mean, it is just incredible.
Yeah,
I really
like
that.
Yeah.
There was one night someone like we split up into two groups, and so like Julander and Stone and Burke I think went one way, and then me and Phil one another, and Phil came across one or something, and this was I think when we were in Davis, some gigantic, just huge cut that there wasn't really anything at the base of it in terms of like plants or cover. So I don't know exactly what they were expecting to find, but Phil came across one. He just like plopped into my hand. And I just remember sitting there for like 10 or 15 minutes, just watching it, in my spotlight. And it was the same thing. Like the pearlescence of them is really wild, on that underside.
Mm-hmm. And watching them kind of flat, like spread their jaws out too, is really neat. I don't know if that one did it for you or not, but kind of just that kind of more like flattening head is really neat with that nice diamond shape. And then some of them, like the more western ones, I haven't seen it with my Texas night snakes at all. But like your San Diego night snakes, they have they'll do like a coil up defense mechanism that's pretty cool. I've seen some rubber boas do that before as well. But yeah, I really want to try the San Diegos just so I can say I've got I'm keeping some clubs because their scientific is like Coluber for their little scientific name there. But yeah. Anyway, they're cool. They're a lot smaller compared to these Texas and desert night snakes. But they're neat.
Are they eating arthropods at all? Has anybody documented them eating any bugs?
I'm sure there are, because I'm not sure really what size they would eat. Like what size anything that they would eat. I'm sure they would eat, like they might snag some gecko tails, but they're not. I don't see them really. I tried offering some inverts. I had some centipedes that I had collected in November. I had some mealworms that I tried just by crushing their head, and offering that. I tried pinhead crickets as well, and it's just nothing really worked for them. So I just kept them on mouse tails for a bit. I'm sure that they would hibernate and they might eat because these guys hatched in November, which is kind of late for things in my opinion. But things happen in the wild. Anyway, looked like we lost William. Let me.
Yeah, he just messaged the group and said his computer might die. So I'm afeared that's what happened. Smitty, you're going to have to adjust your camera if we stay in the same.
No.
Nobody wants to see your ugly face anyways.
But
don't look at me.
Yeah, so I'm sure they would eat some type of invert, but I'm not really sure.
I just think
I haven't found anything that works yet.
if they do, I would imagine, given the number of like Phonopelma and Centroroides and stuff that we also saw when we were out there, if maybe that if they do, it's something sort of hyper specific to something like that. That's pretty commonly available. There was like maybe it was Urontinus. There were some other scorpion species that we saw. And as small as Centroroides are, and how much they reproduce, I wonder if they do eat arthropods, if it's something more specific to something like that.
Yeah, and I plan on spending some time out there in their habitat this summer. I've got a I've got a whole birthday trip planned out there with one of my buddies, Aaron Steele, which I don't know if you guys know him or not, but he keeps like colettes, snakes, eastern coral snakes, Texas coral snakes, awesome stuff. I don't know if you whatever, but anyway, so I'm going out there with him this summer, and I'm hoping to see these guys in habitat, maybe collect a few males because I've got like 1.3 Texas night snakes, so I'd like to have some diverse lines there. But definitely collecting some inverts.
Probably the species we saw the most of. Were some GNI.
Wow.
So,
it's
not hard to come across them.
The goal is night snakes, and then probably one of the more least common things that you'd see out there, the Central Texas whip snakes. That's another thing that I'd be looking for out there, but I don't really. With what I've heard, they're more difficult to come across than just about anything else out there.
I'm trying to think. We saw one species of those. I got to figure out what it was.
So Connor, are you in more like South or North or East Texas?
Like I call it North Central Texas. So like North Texas, I think is like the Panhandle area, but I'm in DFW, the Dallas Fort Worth area.
Okay, so you're in the Dallas area. Okay.
North Central, yeah, that's what I like to call it.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't go out there much. I did go out there. I think it was the 2000. When did I move there? I moved in 2000. I moved there in 2016, so I went to the 2016 Arlington show. That was the only time I've been in that area of Texas. I lived in South Texas for all of 6 months or so.
Cool.
Cool, man.
So we saw Teniatus.
Yeah. So in West Texas, you've got a kind of an integrated zone between the Teniatus and then the Teniatus giardi.
Giardi is what we saw.
You saw giardi?
Yes.
Okay. That is incredible.
It's in Madera Canyon. I didn't see it, so I was so dead set on seeing some croats that I went way ahead of everyone else. And then there was another group that came across this Gerardi, and I think they were fully intending to take it home with them because this group was collecting pretty much everything they found, it looked like. But Rob and Doc Julander happened to be like, hey, what do you guys got there? And then I think the people kind of got the message that they weren't going to Stone and Doc weren't going to go away. So they ended up kind of just parting ways, and they took a bunch of pictures of it. So I didn't actually see it because at that point I was like, cool. I was, a half a mile up the hill at that point. But the pictures they took are awesome.
It's one of the more, I guess, I don't want to say more patterned, because you get Pisces that looks like insane throughout its range, Eastern Texas look insane as well. But like that, in my opinion, that's like the snake, I guess, as far as Masticophis goes. I love them so much. I had one briefly. Briefly. It had just something weird happened and it ended up passing. Like its eye ruptured, and it was like, not good. I hadn't seen anything like that before. But definitely a species that I would love to spend some time with at some point. Just the issue is they're just not readily available, so you've got to go in there in their habitat, and get them, of course, legally with your non-game collection permits and things like that, But that's a species that in my goals of keeping that as a species that I definitely would like to gonna be a while.
Yeah. Well, let's transition to some herping. I assume Connor.
on,
Obviously, I
wait.
know. What, you have something else?
Either of y'all ever kept Salvador? No.
Mm-mm.
Those look like fun.
Well,
We saw-
so I've collected. I've temporarily kept Texas patch nose snakes at this Boy Scout camp that I was working at for a few years. And we kept them in like the nature lodge for a bit, and then we released them at the end of camp. I did have for a little bit a Big Bend patch nose snake. I think that's like Salvadora something hexaplus. Really pretty. As far as the Salvadora go, that's one of the more visually pleasing Salvadora. But I mean, it was one of those that was one of the species that I realized, like, yeah, not everything eats rodents. I had it feeding on rodents fine, but it just wasn't digesting that well. And I was determined to have it just eating rodents because that's what it was sold to me as a rodent feeder, and it didn't end up thriving, unfortunately.
we came across in Madera Canyon. That's like on our way back, literally on the same little trail that they took pictures of the Tenatus. We found a mountain patch nose, was the Gramier.
Yeah.
And
I like
at first, I was so excited because I thought it was a Baird's because the pattern of the stripes and stuff. At first glance, I was like, finally. And then I took a closer look and I was like, wait a second. But
Yeah.
that was probably one of my favorite finds that we saw on the entire trip because the blues on this thing were nuts.
Yeah.
So I have a story about the only patch nose I've ever caught. I didn't know. So when I moved to Texas, I'd never even heard of patch nose snakes. Like I was in the hobby, but I wasn't in the hobby. I was used to southeastern stuff. I knew everything in the southeast. I did not know western stuff. So I was walking a trail and I saw a snake. It was a pretty good sized snake, and I knew it wasn't venomous. And it was kind of laying on the side of some brush. And I ran up to it, and this thing went to go dive into the brush. And I literally dove like full out header into these bushes. And I somehow, by God's grace, I managed to grab it. And I pulled it out, and this thing was 3 feet long. Connor, I'll have to send you some pictures of it. This thing was all of 3 foot plus. Like it was
Wow.
big. And my first thought, because of the stripes and stuff, I grabbed it and I was like, this is the biggest ribbon snake I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it just blew my mind. And then the person I was like, yeah, that's a patch nose. And I was like, what the hell is a patch nose? Like, never even heard of that, but like it was just this massive, just diesel patch nose snake, and I got some cool pictures of it like in my hands, and it was just an awesome animal. And those are such cool snakes, man. That was one of my highlights of my time in Texas. I visited Corpus Christi area a lot, and then I lived there for 6 months, and yeah, that was one of the highlights of my time there, was finding that patch nose.
Nice.
Really cool snakes.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I had no idea they could get that big. This thing was, like, I'm telling you, like 3 foot long. It was huge.
It's just one of those species where at first it doesn't look like much, but the closer you look, the more detail comes out, and it's just It was a gorgeous snake.
Yeah, no, they're really pretty, and I don't know how they vary. Like the one I found was basically like kind of tannish yellow with black stripes. I don't know how they vary from South Texas. Corpus Christi is South Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they vary to West Texas. Stuff like that, but
I got some good pictures of it. I'll have to dig them up. I don't know where they went. I had them on my phone. But...
You need to send them to me. I haven't seen those.
It's a separate subspecies out there in West Texas. So
okay.
I mean, you get your eastern patch nose snake or your Texas patch nose snake, whatever you want to call it.
That's
and
what
you
I
got your Big Bends that are out there. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Now we can talk about herping.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, like, some of y'all's herping, adventures, especially when it comes to stuff like coach whips, and what's your method? Me, I'm an avid herper. At least I try to be, but I'm in the Southeast. I know that can change when you're in Texas. So like, what are some of your methods, favorite finds, bucket list species?
Well, I'll go ahead and let William go first because he's got some better stories than me. But yeah.
Your methods for going out and finding them. I'm sorry, you were breaking up on my end.
Yeah, like what are some of your methods for stuff that type of terrain you look for, type of flip sites that you look for? Do you actually put stuff out to flip? Like or do you road cruise a lot? What is kind of some of your methods that produce the most, and like what do you do to produce the most like numbers?
Well, one of the most important things when you're looking for coach whips, that is it depends how you want to see one. You want to see one curled up and kind of docile and calm, or do you want to see one going, 5, 6+ miles per hour, full speed? So I usually like to go look for coach whips early in the morning.
Okay.
And I'll look for artificial cover, and I'll flip in cool temperatures. And that way, when you flip them, they're perfectly coiled up and they're resting. They're not aggressive. But sometimes you don't always have that option, in which case you have the road cruise, or you can see them by hiking through the deserts and stuff like that. So basically, my techniques would be artificial cover is the main one. And when artificial cover doesn't work out, when the temperatures are getting a little too hot and they don't want to be under the cover, then I'm out and about. I'm hiking around, and so.
Nice.
As far as me in North Central Texas, I spent a lot of time herping in the Palo Pinto County area. And out there's this same Boy Scout camp that I've got access to. I also herp a spot in Mineral Wells, which is actually a spot where you can find coach whips near a water source there, which is kind of neat there that we were talking about earlier. But at all these scout camps, I mean, we use these big wooden pallets as like the base of like one of those big canvas tents. So there's all these pallets that are just all over these camps, all over the property, and it's like perfect flipping. So I'll flip them like he was saying, like William was saying. In the mornings, usually I see smaller individuals underneath those. I'll see kind of the bigger guys when I'm out hiking. The particular area in Palo Pinto that I hike, there's a lot of like your juniper trees and cedar trees and stuff like that. And there's these little like kind of like holes that kind of just form up underneath like these root systems and things like that. So I'll lose a lot of them in those root systems there, as well as it's cool whenever you're hiking around. There's a lot of Texas spiny lizards. I'm forgetting the common name or the scientific name, excuse me. But I've seen some coach whips actually chase spiny lizards up and down trees. The lizard runs up the tree, snake goes after it, all that just kind of cat and mouse,
Yeah.
Super cool seeing that. And even whenever I come across them, if I find them a lot in like edge habitat, where they're kind of like basking on kind of rocks and this kind of like rockier. So on like the scout camp in particular that I'm talking about is on like kind of like a mesa, like a plateau kind of. So they'll be on kind of like this rocky kind of edge habitat, and they'll dart up into the juniper and cedar trees, which is really neat to see. And then there's kind of like a flatter grassy portion where obviously I'll see them go into rodent burrows and stuff like that sometimes too. We got a really, really cool picture of one that's just eyeing me right there coming out of the hole in the ground. It was a snake that it went like I was chasing it, and then it turned around on me and went straight through my legs, and like I barely missed the tail there. And it ended up just going right down in this hole and just kind of staring at me for like 30 minutes. But yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I've noticed. Like, again, I have never found them, but people have found coach whips, at least in like my kind of area. A lot of them have kind of been in fields. You know, like I watched one guy, it was on actually a local island, Justin. It was Tony Mills from Spring Island. He shot a video and he found a coach whip literally in the middle of a field that they planted for like deer hunting, and it was just sitting there. He's walking through this field and he's like, oh, it's a coach whip, and this thing's just going through just an open field, so I feel like for the eastern stuff in our areas, they do like those more open fields where they can get into, like burrows of rodents and whatever they can, get to.
And also in those areas, I mean, it's pretty easy to see what's out there, so you'll see them come up in periscope up there.
Right.
At this scout camp, they've got a lot of those 6-line race runners, which I mean, you guys have.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, we do.
Out there as well, That's kind of the preferred diet of them out there because it's less work than climbing up a tree going after a spiny lizard.
It's another gorgeous
lizard.
lizard.
Those little race runners there, and just seeing them, scanning around. That's makes sense that they're in the open field habitat.
Yeah, that would make sense.
When we were in Lahitas, we were driving and
Legitus.
Yep, Legitus. Doc Julander, he saw like a really nice pink coach whip, but I think by the time he managed to go back to where it was long gone. But you see the pink ones, and then you see all the rocks in areas like Lahitas that are like that wild pink color.
Mm-hmm.
It now made complete sense to me why some of them are those like insane colors. Because it coiled up, it would have blended right in with all those rocks and stuff.
Right. And whenever I'm going, like thinking about it in West Texas, if I come across an animal like that, I gotta really calm myself down because I'd be focused on catching the snake and not worrying about like what else. I could stumble across a blacktail or something like that. I gotta be cautious of stumbling through the habitat. Trying to grab a lunge and jump and all this stuff for the tail of a coach whip, maybe. But.
They do require all-out commitment. If you're not ready to leap, don't play the game.
I can't tell you how many times I've like fully laid out for a snake before. I can't tell you. It's almost sad how many times I've dove headfirst for a black racer. Just because like I just love
they're cool.
Yeah, no rodeo too, man. I've taken headers into the freaking water.
Me.
Grab those things, and but on the herping side of things, what are some of y'all's? Obviously you both have found coach whips. I have not been fortunate enough to do that, but every avid herper has a bucket list, of species. What would be for both of you? What would be your number one find for 23
for our state?
Whatever, if you want to go somewhere and find one, if you have like a trip planned out that you want to find something, and you have like that number one, like whatever it is to you, if you have something planned out.
I want to see a Kentucky corn snake. I've wanted to see one for a lot of years, and it's a conceivable target. They're fairly abundant in the Mammoth Cave region, so I'm looking forward to going out there probably middle of next month and seeing if I can turn one up.
That'd be awesome.
And it's interesting because we're on the topic of coach whips. There are a few records from that part of Central Kentucky, kind of West Central Kentucky, for the Eastern coach whip. They kind of believed that they were captives that were released, but when I've looked at the records in detail, some of these records are from the 20s and 30s.
Yeah,
in the middle of
likelihood of that happening.
So I may do a little searching around there and see what turns up. But that would be great. Myself, I would love to see one, and it would also be great for the state to have actually recorded for Kentucky. We'll see what happens.
That'd be fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
Personally, out in West Texas, I would love to see a Central Texas whip snake. I don't really think that's going to happen, but that will be like the the cherry on top of the trip.
Yeah.
There. Just the dream, as far as herp trips that I have planned, really the only big trip I've got is the West Texas Fort Davis trip that I've been talking about a little bit. On that trip, I'm content just what's out there. There's quite the diversity compared to what I've got here in North Central Texas. Not saying that I don't have a good diversity here. I've got awesome stuff that I find here, but it's good to have just something else to look at.
Yeah.
I'd really like I said, I do plan on collecting some male Texas night snakes for my stuff. I'd like to come across those, which there shouldn't be an issue there. It would be amazing to see a Baird's in habitat. I don't plan on collecting any Baird's if I come across them. I've got keeping it kind of a nice small short list of what I plan to collect, just because I think over collection is not super great. I don't want to end up with something that I take from the wild that I don't really enjoy, and have to either send it to somebody else or whatever. I would love to see. We talked about tan racers a little bit. There is a few counties in Texas where you can come across the tan racers, which I'd love to see. And then I've never seen a buttermilk racer either. I've got a friend that flips them pretty regularly, and I'd love to go with him and come across them. William and I were working on a book going over captive care of Coluber, which Masticophis has been lumped with Coluber now because of there's
taxonomy's not real.
Yeah, but to keep it all, I guess, relevant to the scientific community, as PC is whatever we can make it, we're calling it Coluber there. So we're encompassing all of your North American racers, your North American whip snakes and coach whips, or your North American whip snakes, and then all your Masticophis species all your coach whip species like the island stuff and all that as well.
Say captive care of whatever you want to call them is what the book
Yeah. That'll be that's the title that we'll land on there. But just going through some of the locality, like there's a locality portion there, and just coming across photos, of people on iNat, and reaching out to them asking if we can use the photo for the book or whatnot, or animals that I've photographed or that I've had a friend photograph of my collection, stuff like that. It's really inspired me to get more time out there in the field. I got a really busy schedule, so I'm hoping to take more trips this summer, even if they're just in the state, I'm just got a lot of things that I want to see, but realistically, things that I can't see. It's kind of a short list, but yeah.
I want to come out and see you so bad out there, man. Just go herping with you and see some of the Texas stuff that you guys find. It would be. I know you and I talked about it. It was a while ago now, but you shot me a message like, "Hey, man, you ever come out my way?" Yeah. And ever since then, I've been talking to my buddy Harry Claiborne. Yeah. He's like, "Dude, we gotta go see Connor, man." I'm like,
"Yeah, get some of those speckled kings."
Oh, he wants them bad. He wants them bad.
Well,
because he got one. He got one from you, didn't he?
Yeah. That beautiful yellow female that I got from a buddy down on the Bolivar Peninsula there, just north of Galveston. Dude, don't really see any of those really in the hobby, so it's really just that's one of those snakes, that if I that's just one of the ones that I regret shipping out. But I mean, it went to a good person,
dude.
He's loving it. Harry's awesome.
Harry's top of the line.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
I remember when he was thinking about getting that. I'm a terrible influence. When somebody's like, "Hey man, should I get this?" I'm like, "Yeah, you should." Like, so he's messaging me. He's like, "Man, Connor's got this available. I don't know." I'm like, "Dude, just get it. Like, what are you doing? Like,
don't
it's
think
from
about
Connor.
What you have to say. Yeah. Just do it."
Yeah, just do it. I'm like, it's from Connor, so it's going to be a quality animal. It's going to be healthy. It's a beautiful snake. You love king snakes. Like, I told him, I was like, "Dude, you get that thing. We'll make a trip out to Texas. Like, I'll go with you. You and I will go, and we'll go find you a mate for it. Like, just get it." I told him for probably 2-3 weeks. I was like, "Dude, just get it. Just buy it." Finally, he messaged me and he's like, "Okay, I got it." And I'm like, "Thank you, God."
Well, in September, Not sure what you guys are doing, but the Arlington ARBC Expo is coming through again in the fall. It's a little bit better show there, and I've been talking to Roy and Armin about coming down and coming to the show, and then we're going to go look at check out Reptilandia as well, which I'm not sure if you guys have heard about Reptilandia or not. But it's one of the few places that really they display Masticophis. So like I walked in there, I saw a coach whip, and I was like, oh my gosh, everybody stop what you're doing. This is insane. So cool. I texted William some pictures of their enclosures. I'll have to forward to you guys as well. But I mean, that place is going to be insane.
He had a video the other day of some Parviocula locking up.
Yeah. They
Hell
got
yeah, man.
Just some really insane collection there. And I hope that I can have half as good a facility as what they're doing there. One day. It's going to take a lot of time, but it's insane. Yeah.
That restaurant life keeps us busy, man.
Yeah. I'm the lead server now and the president of the wine club and all that. So it's
oh wow.
It's busy bee. But yeah.
I tell you, man, I work at my restaurant 3 days a week. One day I serve, one day I cook pizzas, the next day I prep pizzas.
I ain't eating any food you bring me.
It's gonna be the best. It's be the best pizza you ever ate. I can tell you that.
What if I want Stromboli?
We ain't got that.
Is there a secret menu?
We ain't got that. So
yeah.
Going back to Hypsiglena real quick, you said you were going to be looking for males.
Right.
Are they sexually dimorphic size-wise?
Not from what I've seen. I haven't really seen enough to be like yes or no. I would expect males to be a little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I say that, but I mean,
that would make sense.
That's natural for a lot of species. Like the males are normally smaller unless you get into like dry marcon and stuff like that. And
right. Yeah, but I haven't spent time. Well, technically, I guess I have spent time in their habitat because they've got a pretty eastern range in Texas as far as the Texas night snipe goes. Like I think the most eastern observation I've heard of Texas night snipes is in Tyler, Texas, which is I would consider that East Texas personally. But they do range up here in Fort Worth and things like that. I just haven't found them. Pretty developed up here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't know, I just haven't spent enough time with them to really like observe them, you know. So that's what I'm hoping to catch up on this summer.
It wasn't until we talked to Michael Gillen, who's in Canada, that I realized like there's I forget what species exactly, maybe it's torcata, but there's a species of night snake that goes all the way up to Canada.
Yeah, I think that's the desert. Yeah, the desert night snake.
Wild. Because I didn't know that at all. I was like, the fact that they even went past like North California.
Yeah,
I was surprised by. So
have you heard about the one they just recently rediscovered?
I think so. I think I read about it.
Yeah, on Clarion Island.
Yeah.
Clarion Island night snake was found in a little crack in a ravine on that little island.
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible. It survived that long, just hidden, and they had found it before, but they refound it. They thought it was extirpated, but evidently it's not extirpated. And conveniently, it shares the island with one of the coolest species of coach whip that I know of. the Clarion Island coach whip, also known as the Clarion Island whip snake, and they are amazing. I'm
gonna Google it.
Yeah, it's Masticophis anthonii.
A whole lot of pictures though. Yeah, Anthony.
Yeah, if anyone listening to this has any connections to anything on Clarion Island or whatnot, we could sure use some pictures of the Clarion Island whip snake or Clarion Island coach whip, the Masticophis anthonii, just as a reference photo for the species profile. Just because every single person, there's like 4 or 5 people that I know that have been on that island and photographed them, but they haven't responded back to my emails asking if I can use photos for the book. Are they a little frustrating?
Considerably smaller than a lot of other coach whips?
Considerably fatter. They're considered to be some of the fattest of the genus. They eat mostly migratory birds on the island, and it contributes to a very fat racer that is also a very oily racer. Apparently, old dissections that they did in them, they found that they were a very oily snake and some of the fattest in the genus. So that's their main prey.
And like that goes into. I would almost wonder if that goes into coach whips in general. So, like, if you think about bull snakes, and Pituophis in general, they spend a lot of time in burrows, gopher burrows. But I would wonder if a lot of coach whip species don't eat a lot of like baby ground burrowing birds, like quail.
If they're anything like racers,
like
I feel like
that.
they'll eat just about anything they can fit in their gullet.
Yeah, but like coach whips specifically, specifically, like I feel like coach whips, being a more terrestrial species that will go down into burrows. I wonder if, like, especially easterns, if quail wouldn't be a good diet for them.
I'm sure it would. If they're willing to eat a rabbit, then I'm sure they would. I'm sure they'd down a quail.
Oh yeah, no, that's.
Yeah, actually, for my whip snakes in particular, I feed them smaller prey items, just because they're like a thinner species. They're not as heavy as a flagellum. But I do try to rotate in bird prey, frozen thawed quails, stuff like the smallest button quail that I can find,
Right.
Just to keep a nice lean and trim animal. I'm not starving anybody,
Right.
One of the biggest issues with keeping Masticophis in captivity, in my opinion, is obesity. And that causes issues for breeding and for egg laying. And then just they're going to be lethargic and they're not going to do what a coach whip should do. So keeping them kind of nice and trim, it's a good way to be. So diet variation, not just rodent prey all the time.
Right. I think that goes for pretty much everything in the hobby. I will 100% every day of the week say the biggest problem in this hobby is obesity in snakes. Just in general across the board. I've seen the biggest corn snakes I've seen in my mother freaking life have been in captivity. Just these massively obese corns that eat, jumbo mice or small rats once a week. Like I have a yellow rat in here that's pushing 6 foot, and I feed him a jumbo mice every 2 weeks just because I feel like he's fat. He's huge. But even though they get big, they get very big, but it still just feels like he's just massive, and I think that's by far, across the board, the biggest problem in the industry. And then when you have something like coach whips that eat smaller prey items, it's an even bigger problem. And it's the same way with Pituophis, like I feed my Pituophis because they digest. Pituophis have a very fast, high metabolism. So I really try to keep the meals for them. I feed them frequently. I feed them once a week because of their high metabolism, but I feed them a couple small meals, like in one sitting. A 6.5 foot pit will get 2, jumbo mice, which are smaller than a small rat. I'll feed them 2 of those in a sitting for the week, and that seems to maintain, really well. But that's me. I also want to start adding in quail to their diet and more just different stuff.
Yeah.
But
nerd,
shut up. You and your fucking rhinos.
they're the best. We need to sneak on down to Mexico and get us some of those Hypsiglena.
I really want to, man. I don't want to get knifed, okay? I don't want to get knifed.
I don't either, but for some Ophryacis,
well, so forget.
Might be worth it.
Yeah, it might be. It
might
be
knife wounds. You can heal those. People get
all
the time.
Knife wounds heal.
Yes, the Baja night snakes are awesome.
Oh my god!
But if you have not seen a Baja coach whip, particularly like a white or yellow phase, or a Baja California striped racer, man,
Baja has all the best stuff. They got the best Mountain Dew.
They do. They get the best
Oh
mountain
my,
candy.
shut up.
They got the best Hypsiglena. Best
Yeah, those kind of have
Masticophis.
like an orange red eye to them, which is neat.
They got the best of the Centicolas too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lenni or whatever.
Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah.
they got the best. They got the best Pitchuophis too.
Oh yeah.
Best
The
Cali
Baja
Kings. Dude, the Baja Calis are.
There is no better flavor of Mountain Dew than Baja Blast. I'll die on that hill.
Voltage is a close competitor.
Which one?
Voltage, blue,
Yeah.
it's a close competitor.
I don't know, that live wire was pretty good back in the days of like
No,
Halo 3.
that was good stuff.
I don't drink caffeinated soda.
Me
Yeah.
neither.
So
I
I
don't
don't drink caffeine
I
at
don't
all.
I'm just gonna sip my tea.
In fact, clear my conscience for everyone. This is not soda. This is carbonated water.
There you go. I can't do that
We're
shit.
good.
I tell you what, I cannot drink carbonated water at
Jake has the
all.
kidney of a 9-year-old man.
I do. So I don't drink. I try to I've almost cut out soda. Like if I go get lunch with my dad, I'll have like a Sprite or something just because I need carbonation. But I try
Living
to keep
dangerously.
I try to keep it. I try to keep it to juices and stuff like that.
This is hell. It's a special occasion.
I do have very bad kidneys that like to produce kidney stones whenever possible. So
Yeah. Soda's not a good idea then.
no, it is a horrible idea.
Pee through
But
the pain.
my doctor told me I could have Sprite. So
Which is odd because that's almost like the most carbonated of all the sodas.
Well, it's not the carbonation; it's the sugar. For one, I don't drink caffeine because I have a heart arrhythmia, so I don't do caffeine.
How
I
are
don't
you
do
alive? How have
I
you
don't-
survived this long?
I don't do anything that can elevate my heart rate, anything like that. I pretty much cut out caffeine. I had a scare a couple months ago that really freaked me out, so I pretty much cut out caffeine entirely. And then for me, like with the kidney stones, it's sugary stuff. I used to drink, a gallon of sweet tea in 3 days, when I was in college, and then I started having kidney stone problems. And first thing my doctor asked me, he's like, "Do you drink a lot of sweet tea?" And I'm like,
Jake was getting wild in college. He was drinking a gallon
No,
of sweet tea.
no,
Over the course of 3 days.
I just loved sweet tea. And he was like, "Yeah, you can't drink sweet tea anymore." So I drink zero sugar. If I drink soda, it's zero sugar, but I try to keep it to juices. But even now, most juices have way too much sugar in them. So water is my best friend.
It's good for you.
Yeah. Even that though, like this Powerade I've been sipping on is a zero sugar Powerade. I have vodka mixed into it.
He says, "You know what? My kidneys are already shot. Let's go for my liver now."
Yeah, pretty much.
That's some of the old fire water.
Yeah, I only drink my liquor. I've cut down to the lowest amount of sugar that I can get.
Kidney, liver, heart. The only thing left is lungs and brain.
Hey, and I say my lungs. I just quit smoking entirely.
Now that's an accomplishment there. Yeah, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, no, I smoked cigarettes for a long time, and then I
Really
vaped
bad for
I vaped for about a year and a half, and then I recently just quit vaping, and I'm tobacco free officially for the first time in like 10 years.
You need to quit smoking.
Nice.
It's horrible for you.
Yeah, as you puff your. I'm not nicotine free though. I do use nicotine like pouches that I put. I don't know if y'all have seen me like stick in little pouches, but they're tobacco free, so I don't mind.
Oh, I thought you were just eating mothballs.
Nope, I use Zen pouches. They help me quit vaping, so I'm officially smokeless and tobaccoless for the first time. And
That's what people have to
10
do
years.
now to quit. So it's like they literally just have to substitute a vice for something else, and it's like the train just continues to evolve.
It's one thing at a time for me. I'm still getting my nicotine, but I'm tobacco free and I'm not absorbing anything into my lungs.
Well, here's
So
my
it's-
confusion. Like, yeah, cigarettes are bad for you. I'm not into them. I've never smoked one. I've had family that's been killed by them. Like, but you give people an alternative to cigarettes in the form of vape, and then people complain about the vape. And it's
Dude,
like,
vaping.
well, look, like, what do you like? And then they come like, now that you complain about the vape, now you're supposed to take like nicotine patches, and nicotine gum, and then they're like, well, you're gonna be stuck on that forever. It's like, well, what do you want me to do, man? Like,
But that's the thing. Like, if you look
get
at a
on Chantix
can,
and have nightmares.
if you look at a can of the Zyn like pouches or whatever, it doesn't have any of the warnings like, oh, this will cause you mouth cancer. Oh, this will do that. It just says nicotine is an addictive chemical. I know this. I've been addicted to nicotine for a very long time. So the fact that I am smokeless and tobacco-less for the first time in 10 years, I'm going to take it. Okay?
That's good.
Like, I'm going to take that. And I'm slowly weaning off the nicotine, but I'm happy.
I ain't
I'm
giving up
happy with
cigars,
myself.
man.
You should think about it, Smitty.
Everyone should be allowed to have at least one vice.
Yeah.
I've got reptiles, so yeah.
Connor's over here just all healthy and shit. Like, yeah, I don't need none of that. I just need my snakes.
Yeah, man.
Snakes are why I need my nicotine. God damn it.
Lizards now too, but yeah.
Oh, that's right. You have alligator lizards. I forgot about
Those
that.
are cool as hell.
Dude, those are so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Those are like, I've seen it because you and
Roy.
Gron and God, why I've been spacing on people's names so hard lately. Roy keeps the Texas alligator lizards as well, right?
Yeah. There's a handful of other people, but they're not as common just because they're kind of an earth tone there,
Yeah, they're not flashy, they're not bright yellow,
They're not a bronia.
they're not bright green, whatever. But dude, I saw the one you posted the other day, and oh my God, they're so cool, man.
Yeah,
they are so cool.
Get some.
Yeah, that'll probably have to be a conversation for the next episode we do. We'll get into some alligator lizards and stuff like that, because obviously we got to have you on every so often just to get an update, because
We should have like an annual Connor requirement of
yeah,
episode.
no doubt, because Connor, like, this is just whatever. You're one of my favorite people in this hobby, like, genuinely. Like, I really appreciate what you do.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm like young and not like I don't know, man. I just keep what I keep, but I'm glad that people enjoy that. So
no, man, you do what you do, and you do it well, and I really respect what you do and how you do it, and it's awesome. I love following you. I love seeing what you're doing.
Nice.
So hats off, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
William, are you on Instagram?
I am.
Well, give us your tag.
What's your
Connor's like, wait, what?
I don't have any herb stuff on there, but it's just I make replicas of prehistoric weaponry, and I have that on there. So
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, that's dope. Dude, Phil would love that. Are you kidding me? Phil's all about that type of stuff, man.
Cool.
Phil's a big gun guy, just in general. I know you say prehistoric weaponry, so I'm assuming it's not gun related, but that would definitely be up Phil's alley.
Yeah. No, like primitive axes, spears kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know Alan Newberry?
Awesome.
I do not. Nope.
Okay. He's like he does like bladesmithing and makes knives and stuff. And he's got some herbs. He's I think mostly a tortoise guy, if I'm not mistaken, but he was on Forged in Fire. He won
Oh, wow.
I think like the 7th season of that. Yeah. He makes some really nice stuff. I mean, like I've some of the stuff he's posted lately, man, it's really, really good looking hardware. So
wow.
Nice.
I'll have to hunt down his page and send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, we are past the 2-hour mark, fellas. So if anybody, unless we have any closing remarks, Smitty, have we covered everything that we want to?
Yep.
Yeah, we're good. So if anybody wants to contact y'all, talk Coach Whips, talk whatever y'all are doing, all the crazy stuff, what's the best way to contact y'all and get information?
Go ahead, Will.
For me, it would be Facebook. Just type in William Huntsman, and you'll find me on there. And if you have any questions related to coach whips or racers, anything fast, a little bit vicious, has some decent color, I might be able to help you out.
Nice.
For me, feel free to check me out on Instagram, Naturalist Herps. It's where you can see my reptile stuff, and then a lot of Facebook stuff as well. Just Connor Wardle. In just about every Facebook group for North American colubrids that there is. So there, and then I've got a YouTube as well where I kind of put out some care videos for some of the more niche stuff that I've kept and that I'm keeping currently. Just a little bit of project updates as well. That's going to just be Connor Wardle as well. You can look up, if you want, just look up Hypsiglena, and I'm probably like one of the first 1 or 2 videos talking about Texas night snakes, but it's something you're interested in, and you can find my page through there. So
awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for coming on tonight. This was yet another great episode. This was a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this for a month and a half, 2 months now.
Give or take.
That it got brought up. This was probably the most planned episode we've had in a very long time. So this was great. Thank y'all so much for making time to come on with your busy schedules. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks. I
appreciate the opportunity, man. It's been a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate it, man.
Well, if you need a rack or you need a cage, maybe you need both, you need to head over to blackboxcages.com. You need to hunt them down on Facebook and Instagram, Blackbox Cages. You need to use the code THN at checkout. Save yourself a little bit of money. Get yourself something nice. You won't regret it.
That little bit adds up, man.
That's right.
You've got a big order. You get 10% off. I'll save you some dough.
That's right.
I'll take 10% off, man. I'll take 10% off.
And then, because all this shopping till you drop will make you hungry, you'll need some hot sauce for whatever you're going to be eating. And you need to go over to stevesanctuary.com and you need to get yourself the whole lineup, the whole set of Venom hot sauce. And then, depending on your mood, you can pick out whatever you're feeling and you can put it on waffles. You can put it on chicken. You can put it on ramen, I guess. I don't eat ramen, but I'd imagine that's something people would do.
It definitely is. And Justin and I can tell you from experience, it makes Pizza Hut wings better.
Oh, yeah.
So that's for sure. And then the best part of that is when you're done with the bottles, you get a cool little display thing because it's got a picture of the snake on it. It says Steve Sanctuary Hot Sauce. It's got a cool picture on it. You display them in your snake room. Cool little feature.
I would like to take them and empty them and use them to grow like clippings.
Dude, I was literally about to say you could grow like pothos in those things, man. Like
that'd be a cool little set to be growing clippings out of.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So hit up Steve, see everything he's doing. He's doing awesome stuff. Aside from his hot sauce, he's doing rescues. He goes out and catches snakes for people. And he's taking in unwanted animals.
Relocations, public education,
relocation, rehabilitation, public outreach, all the good stuff.
And he's a first responder. So
yes,
I mean, come on.
Always good to support those guys.
That's right. We'll be back for Snakes and Stogies on Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't think we have a game plan currently. We've been really bad about not having our shit together lately.
Well, Phil's engaged, so it's understandable.
Yeah. We can blame it all on him.
I was about to say, you're a busy man too, so it's Since when do we have THP episodes actually planned out? So, yeah.
Just need to get better about it is all.
Yeah, that's all it is.
But thank you all. We will see you later.
Have a good evening.